This is the questions and answers in Chapter 4, Atomic Structure. So let's take a look at the answers to your chapterized questions. The first question says the particles with the smallest mass are which one? Smallest mass, that is electrons. The particles with a negative charge, which of these have a negative charge? Of course, also the electrons. The two types of particle in the nucleus of a boron atom, or any atom for that matter, the two types of particles in the nucleus of an atom are, the nucleus contains protons and neutrons. In a boron atom, there are equal numbers of what? We have equal numbers of protons and electrons. Number of protons is the same as the number of electrons. The element boron has isotopes. Isotopes have different numbers of neutrons. Okay, the diagram shows the electronic configuration of a magnesium atom. So he has the distribution 282. Put a cross in a box to indicate the diagram that shows the electronic configuration of an oxygen atom. Now, you should realize that you look in the periodic table for oxygen. You will always be provided with a copy of the periodic table in any exam or any paper. If you look at the oxygen atom in the periodic table, you will find that it has a small number 8. That means it has 8 electrons. Now, how do you distribute 8 electrons? The first energy level, first of all, takes only 2. So A and B are totally wrong. The first energy level can take only 2. And then oxygen has a total of 8 electrons. So if you put 2 in the first energy level, you're left with only 6. So your answer is, that's the last one, D. Okay. Complete the table to show the relative mass and relative charge of a proton, neutron, and electron. So the proton has a mass of what? We said the proton has a mass of 1, and the neutron has a mass of 1. But the electron, as he wrote for you, the electron has a mass of 1 over 1840. Now, the relative charge on the proton is +1. So what is the charge on the neutron? We said the neutron is neutral. It has a 0 charge, not positive, not negative. The electron has a charge of -1. Okay, the symbol for an atom of one isotope of hydrogen is this. State the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons present in one atom of this isotope. So how do we get the number of protons? We said the number of protons is the small number. So the number of protons is 1. How do we get number of neutrons? We said to get the number of neutrons, you subtract the big number minus the small number. So 3 minus 1, that's 2. Number of electrons is also the small number. Since this is an atom, it's not something that has lost or gained any electrons. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. It says bromine has 2 naturally occurring isotopes with mass numbers 79 and 81. A sample of bromine contained the 2 isotopes in this ratio. Use this information to calculate the relative atomic mass of bromine. Remember that she says relative atomic mass of bromine, we use the mass number of one times its abundance plus the mass number of the other times its abundance. And the abundance here is the percentage, so we divide by 100. That gives you an answer of 79.99. Now, is this my final answer? Well, let's see. He says you should give your answer to what? To 2 decimal places. So this is your answer. Okay? The diagram on the left shows the arrangement of the electrons in a fluorine atom. So fluorine has an atomic number of 9 from your periodic table. So he distributed it 2 and 7. Use the periodic table to help you to complete the diagram on the right. Now, if you look at chlorine in the periodic table, chlorine has a small number 17. So how would you distribute 17 electrons? We have 2 electrons in the first shell already written for us. So we need to distribute the rest of the 17. The next energy level takes how many? Takes 8, and then I need to put the rest of that, which are the 7 that are left, in the final energy level. So this is what your answer should look like. Okay? Diagram represents an atom of an element. The diagram shows that there are equal numbers of particles A and C. So what do you think is A and what do you think is B? So if it has equal numbers of A and C, that means A is which one? A is the protons, because we usually have equal number of protons and electrons. C is obviously the electron, so A must be the proton if it is the same number, and that means that B is the neutron, because in the nucleus we have protons and neutrons. Do you understand how we got that? Okay, state the atomic number and mass number of this atom. Atomic number of this atom is the number of protons. We decided that A is the proton. It has how many protons? 5 protons, so the atomic number is 5. Now, what's the mass number? The mass number is the total number of particles in the nucleus. So we have 5 protons and we have 6 neutrons, so the total is 11. What would be the name of this element? How do I know the name of this element? Do I look for the atomic number or the mass number? Remember that we said the atomic number is unique for each element. So you look in the periodic table for something that has the small number 5. Do we understand that? So when he says identify an element, you look for its atomic number. That's the small number in the periodic table. So you're looking for what has a small number 5, and you will find that that is boron. What will be the electronic configuration of this element if it has an atomic number of 5? So the configuration is 2, 3, just as it's distributed up there. 2 in the first shell and 3 in the next shell. Okay, use words from the box to complete the sentences about beryllium. An atom of beryllium has a central what? What's in the center of any atom? A central nucleus that contains particles called what and what? What is inside the nucleus? Protons and neutrons. Around these particles there are electrons orbiting in shells. Okay, you're choosing from the words in that box. An atom of beryllium has no charge because it contains equal numbers of, any atom contains equal number of protons and electrons. The particles with the lowest mass in an atom of beryllium are called what? Which particles have the lowest mass? The electrons. We said the electrons have the lowest mass. Okay, this question is about bromine and some of its compounds, and he gives bromine atoms represented by this. State the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons in an atom of bromine 79. Now, to get the number of protons, you actually need to look at the periodic table. You cannot get it from the information that is given, because the information that is given is the mass number, not the atomic number. The atomic number, we said, is something that does not change, so you need to look in the periodic table for bromine and look for the small number. You'll find that it is 35. Now, how many neutrons? That will be 79 minus 35. So 79 minus 35, that is 44. And the electrons are the same as protons. What name is used for atoms of bromine that have different numbers of neutrons? Of course, different number of neutrons are isotopes. Why do all atoms of bromine have the same chemical properties? Now, any atom that has the same number of electrons in outer shell would have same chemical properties. So all the isotopes have the same number of electrons in outer shell, so they will have the same chemical properties. Remember, chemical properties are based on number of electrons in outer shell. Okay, relative atomic mass of bromine in the periodic table is 80, but a more accurate value is 79.9. So just with the reason, which of the atoms, bromine 79 and bromine 81, exist in greater numbers in a sample of bromine? Now, if the average is 79.9, this average is nearer to 79 or nearer to 81? It's nearer to 79, so that means that bromine 79 must be present in greater numbers in the sample. So 79 is closer to 79.9, that means it must have the higher percentage or the higher abundance. Okay, the table shows the number of particles in two atoms, L and M, and he gives me number of electrons, neutrons, and protons for each. Which particles are present in the nuclei of both atoms? The nucleus of any atoms will have what? Neutrons and protons. The atomic number of L is what? Atomic number is the number of what? Atomic number is the number of protons. So the atomic number of L is 6. Now the mass number of L, how do we get mass number of L? That's the protons plus the neutrons, and that is 40. Atoms L and M are neutral because any atom is neutral if what? If the number of electrons and protons are equal. Okay? This is the same table, and he's saying use information from the table to explain why atoms L and M are isotopes of the same element. They are isotopes of the same element because they have the same number of what? They have the same number of protons, but they have different number of neutrons, and that is actually the definition of isotopes. Electronic configuration of atom M. Atom M has how many electrons? 6. So how are we going to distribute it? 2, 4. Okay. What is meant by isotopes? We said isotopes are atoms of the same element having the same number of protons but different number of neutrons. Please memorize definitions. Okay. Now for these are hydrogens, and you should realize that you look at the periodic table and you look for the atomic number of hydrogen. The atomic number of hydrogen is 1. So the number of protons is 1 in all of them. Now the number of neutrons will be this big number that is written, which is the mass number minus 1. So 2 minus 1, 3 minus 1, that's my number of neutrons. And the number of electrons is the same as the number of protons. Okay, so far? Give the symbol of the element that has an atomic number of 14. So I go to the periodic table and I look for the atom that has a small number, 14. Which one did you find? That's silicon. And he wants the symbol, so you give him the symbol. Please, if he says give the name, you write the name. Give the symbol, you write the symbol. Give the symbol of the element that has a mass of 14. So which one has a relative atomic mass of 14? You'll find that that is nitrogen. Nitrogen is the one that has the big number, 14. Use numbers from the table to complete the table. Numbers from the box to complete the table. Atomic number of the atom. So this diagram that we have there. Now he has what? Actually he has a key. So it is the white circles that are protons. So the atomic number is the number of the protons. So you have 3 white circles on the nucleus. So the proton number is 3. Our atomic number is 3. Number of shells. How many shells do you have written there? You have 2 shells. Mass number, what's the mass number? Mass number is everything inside the nucleus, protons plus neutrons. So you have 3 protons and 4 neutrons, so that's a total of 7. So that's your mass number. Number of protons in an isotope of this element, the number of protons is always the same. If it is the same element, it's the same number of protons. Okay, so now we're at the end of the questions for this chapter. Again, please go study the chapter, go over the questions, send me an email, and I'll send you the quiz for this chapter. Okay?